Hi, my name's Kevin Hicks. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The History Squad. Now today's video has been voted in by my Patreon members. Hey guys, thanks a bunch. This is the London medieval murder map. What's that, may you ask? Well, actually it's been put together by the University of Cambridge and it's an interactive map. It's brilliant. You can look it up, details in the description. It covers 142 murders in London at the medieval times, 1300 to 1340. And what we've done is chosen a few of those murders and we're going to have a little delve and see what went on in the murky medieval streets of London. So before we actually delve into these murders, I must explain the information is from the coroner's courts, and so the records stand from the coroner. They're not the actual court case, they're not being put on trial, it's simply the facts about the murder as far as the coroner was concerned. So the first case, the arrest and death of Ralph Fitzpierce, 18th of October 1316. Ooh, old Ralphie must have been a bad un, because two other men actually reported him. They informed on him, and the sheriff, Hammond of Chigwell, isn't he great names, was ordered to apprehend him. So Hammond gives the order to his sergeant-at-arms, Roger at Week. That's another name, isn't it? To apprehend this bad un, Ralph. Well, they can't find him at first, but eventually they track him down. They found where he was living, and the sergeant-at-arms, Roger, goes to arrest him, apprehend him on his own. And he shouldn't have done that, because as I said, Ralph was a bad un. He resists the arrest. He resisted arrest with one of these, and he hit the sergeant-at-arms over the head with the sword, causing a wound. There was a struggle. The sergeant-at-arms drew his knife and he managed to plunge it into the waist of Ralph. It plunged in 5 inches, causing a wound 1 inch wide. So, with the aid of local people who had heard the sergeant-at-arms crying out, Ralph was conveyed to Newgate Prison, where he later died. Now there's a surprise. Interestingly though, during the court of inquiry, the coroner's court, it was asked, did the sergeant-at-arms resign? And they went, no, he hasn't resigned at all, because what he was doing was keeping the king's peace. And don't forget, the crowd came to his aid when he called out. That is a real positive thing. But they actually put him on trial. And he was admonished. No case to answer. Because old Ralph there, he was a bad un, and he paid the price. So our second case is titled Pierced by the Purses. Monday of Pentecost 1324 in Bishopsgate, London. The body of poor Nicholas, servant to Simon of Nottingley, I do love these names, was found dead at the entrance of William of Pontefract's house in Bishopsgate. He'd been murdered. So the coroner opens an inquiry, and with the sheriff they visit the scene of the murder. A jury is sworn in to carry out an investigation. They are from local people from Bishopsgate. They're at the house of Alice of Witney, a prostitute, and this is where the story unfolds, because 3 men, so it would appear, beat young Nicholas half to death, and then he was finished off with a knife. The men concerned were all servants to Lord Percy. We've got Henry Crock, who was Lord Percy's attendant. We have one, Thomas, who was the servant to the cook, and William de Marsh, who was the master of horse for the Percys. So these servants, yeah, they're important. But this is the nasty thing. They kicked old Nicholas half to death. And then William nastily used a knife very similar to this, and he plunged it straight through his right breast, through Nicholas's right breast, and thrust it so hard it went halfway down through his body. They then had it on their toes. They ran away. However, as it so happens, William de Marsh was apprehended, and he was then placed in jail at Newgate Prison. As I say, we don't know what happened to him because this is just the coroner's report. It is not the criminal proceedings. But I like to think that the beggar was hanged. This final case of ours that we're looking at really does strike home, if you like, because it involves somebody being shot with an arrow from a longbow, but right in the heart of London. It was Aldergate, 11th of June, 1326. Simon de Formerie had been shot near the belly button with an arrow, causing multiple wounds from which he died. He was found dead in the house that he rented. And a little thing that I find interesting here, in the coroner's report, he said he was shot with an arrow that caused multiple wounds. So was he shot with one arrow or more than one arrow? If he was shot with more than one, it'd have been a great grouping. So it transpires that Simon had been shot 2 days before on the 9th of June. What had happened was this: sunset. 2 massive gangs of apprentice lawyers, one set from York, the other from Norfolk, had fallen out big time. And they clashed, drawn swords. Church bells were ringing in alarm, and a large crowd had gathered, alarmed at what was going on in their streets. So you imagine the scene. Great numbers were involved, so the Court of Inquiry says. Swords clashing, church bells ringing, people frightened for their lives and for their property. When David Arpada, together with 12 other servants, step out into the street of their master's house in St. Martin-le-Grand and watch the proceedings. Now, I don't know how, but David produces a longbow. Now, the Court of Inquiry reckoned he'd been egged on by the other servants. He simply draws his bow and shoots straight into the crowd. He hit his mark. The arrow has entered right near the abdomen, the belly button of poor Simon, who falls to the ground. Meanwhile, David, together with one other of the servants, have it on their toes. They disappear as fast as they can. And as far as I can tell, they weren't found. However, the 11 remaining servants were arrested. I love this, but I want to know, what happened? Did they ever find David? Was he ever brought to justice? But I only have the murder map of medieval London to go on, the coroner's inquiries. You know, when I look at these medieval murders and then I compare it to today, I don't think much has changed really. When you have a look at the map, you will see that the dominant form of murder was actually stabbings. So in the later part of the medieval period, 1300 to 1340, more people were stabbed in London than in any other form of killing. And that's the same as today in London. Last year, 2022, out of the 109 murders committed, 9 were shootings, but 69 of them were fatal stabbings. And I was watching about a trial in the United States, a savage killing, and the judge actually referred to it as being medieval in what this person had done. Well, I don't think we've advanced when it comes to killing. We are still just as brutal, as merciless, as murderous as we've ever been. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video of ours. If you did, like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the all notification buttons. They do work sometimes. But before I go, a quick shout out to a couple of my Patreon members. The first is Tom Smith. Hey Tom, hi. Met him in Warwick in England recently and we shared a pint in a good old-fashioned pub. And the other is Travis Graham. Hey guys, thanks a million. Bye for now.